Aaron Kirkpatrick.
It's good to be back.
My friend, you've been on the show. This is your three-peat now, man.
No,
4.
I think 5.
Is it 5?
I think. Am I the most?
You're the most
frequent guest at this point?
You're the most frequent. This is 5 now.
That was
Holy
the goal.
Cow. This is. I graduated from Dewey, so I technically.
Well, they're just each so special to me that I'm keeping count.
It's awesome. Well, welcome back to the podcast. I'm having you on because you and I were together having a conversation about AI, and you brought up an interesting perspective about AI that I had not even thought about. And my son and I actually were just talking about this because of our conversation. And so this is not going to be the typical podcast about, cultural issues or faith issues or things of that nature. This is more of a economic. I think what you brought up has a potential to really impact everyone. And I think your idea on how to fix the problem could economically and fix everything. I think all the problems can be alleviated if we do what you laid forward. Because I think people aren't thinking about this long term. We like AI. It's useful. I use it to make the thumbnails for the podcast, right? I just type it in, have it use that for the thumbnails. But no one thinks about, like right now, I think my son, who's an electrician, we were talking about this just the other night, over 700 electricians are being hired to work on the AI data centers that are going to be in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And you gave me the number, and I can't remember right offhand how much electricity is used by one AI data center.
Yeah, so that varies, okay? So what we're about to talk about is a huge problem that more and more people are finally starting to wake up to. In fact, our legislature is even starting to wake up to it. The problem is they're thinking about how do we address the problem we're aware of instead of how do we benefit people and get ahead of this so that this is a boom for everybody instead of a huge problem. Because there's a huge problem coming. The huge problem is that data centers use a lot of electricity. And what that means is that every single one of us are going to pay more, like a lot more. So PSO has asked this year for a 15% increase in Oklahoma's electricity rates, okay? Mm-hmm. That's actually relatively mild. Yeah. There are parts of the East Coast that saw their electricity bills go up by 30% last year.
Gee.
And the predictions that I have seen...
Well, I had a guy just come by my house 2 days ago trying to sell me solar panels, and he used that as the fear tactic. Hey, your electric rate's going up 15%, man.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a fear tactic. It's just a truth statement.
Sure.
Whether or not you should buy those, that's a different question, but we'll get there, I think. But the point is, across the country, I listened to a bunch of different experts, and people who are familiar with the space are predicting that everybody's rates are going to go up on average between 40 and 100% over the next 4 to 5 years.
Gee, I'm sorry, how much again?
40 to 100%.
40.
So
I thought I misheard you. But.
Yeah, your rates are predicted by some people to double in the next 5 years or less. So. To put that in economic terms, for the average Oklahoman, we spend about, I think it's like $140 a month on average for electricity. Yeah. This is for like the median household, okay? So it turns into like $2,300 a month, something like that. Those numbers are gonna be a little off. I'm thinking of two different sets of numbers. So maybe let's call it around 2,000, okay? We'll kind of split the difference.
Sure.
So about $2,000 a year is how much the average the median Oklahoman family is spending for the electricity in their house, like we're doing right here.
These lights and
yeah. And your HVAC and all that kind of stuff, okay?
Yep.
So if that doubles, that's another $2,000 a year. And
so that's, I went to Dewey, so 2 plus 2
it's $4,000 a year.
4.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, I don't know too many Oklahoman families who can say like, well, I can absorb that, right? Even just a 15% increase, that's going to be another $250. Oh man, a year. So this is going to add up really fast. That's not including businesses, like that's just households. Okay,
Yeah.
The truth is we can't afford that.
Yeah,
and this is getting rolled out, whether we like it or not. The reason is because electricity is a consumable, right? So electricity is something that it's a commodity, at least that's the way we think of it. And so it's then priced like a commodity. So you don't just like flip another breaker and more electricity comes out. You have to build that generation capacity, the ability to produce more electricity. And that the new generation takes a lot longer to build out than it takes to build these data centers.
Yeah.
So right now in Oklahoma, we have some of the cheapest electricity in the country.
Sure.
Because we have relatively few people for the amount of electricity that we produce.
Correct.
One of the great things about being an oil and gas state.
Yep.
But what is coming is that we will not have enough electricity for the demand. And so the prices will go up. And then we will be competing as individuals or as households against trillion-dollar tech companies. Well, we're going to lose that every time.
Sure.
In the last 4 years, just as another background problem, the economic divide between the wealthiest 1% and everybody else has just dramatically exploded.
Yeah.
So that 1% of Americans now hold as more wealth than the middle class and lower class combined. So when those people say, we want to power these data centers, we can't compete with them.
Yeah, they're going to get what they want.
They can pay double the rate.
Sure.
We can't.
Sure.
And so people are literally, we are a year or 2 or 3 away from Oklahomans having to decide, and all Americans having to decide, am I going to keep the air conditioner on the summertime, or am I going to be able to buy groceries?
Yeah.
And that's not hypothetical. That's coming.
Yeah. So you're not fear mongering on this. This is just the facts that you're seeing and the data that you're seeing.
Yeah. All the experts are talking about this. Like,
So-
this is happening. So the question is, how do we fix it?
Yeah,
Okay?
that was my next question is how do we fix it then?
Right. So the Oklahoma legislature has done one good thing already, and they have passed what they call behind the meter, which means when an AI data center builds itself out, they can provide their own power generation. Okay. So that's not bad. That is an option. It has its own problems. So this is what Elon Musk did in Memphis. So he bought every like electricity generator in like the southeast and used them to power his big supercomputer that's over there.
Yeah.
They put off so much pollution that people who have lived there for generations now say they can't breathe the air. It's making them sick because they're putting off so much diesel fumes and those kind of things.
Yep.
So he's providing his own electricity, but it's got all these other unintended
Right. There's all
consequences.
the back. Yeah.
Yes. So the question is, for me, it's not enough to just say, how do we fix that? Oh, well, there's one other thing that the legislature's done. A guy named, I believe it's Brad Bowles, who is running for the corporate commission. He wants to be one of our corporate commissioners, is also proposing something. He's currently a representative, and he's proposing something in the legislature. I like this guy. I've listened to him. I think he's got some good ideas. He is also suggesting that or trying to pass a deal where the companies that are doing this, they would actually have to pay for the infrastructure to get the electricity as well. What most people don't know is right now, if the power company needs to run new generation lines to a new neighborhood or another town or an AI center, then those costs also go into your bill. So you may not have used any more electricity, but your bill has gone up because you're having to pay for the infrastructure rollout they did. So they're making a profit on the energy, and you're paying for the infrastructure cost. What Brad's bill would do would make it so that the companies who are building the data centers have to pay for their own infrastructure, the power lines, the relay stations, the transformers.
I think is good. I think that's a smart move.
Yes, I fully support that. That is a necessary first step. It just doesn't go far enough to do us good. And this is the difference between the way most people tend to think about policy. How do we fix a problem instead of how do we benefit our constituents?
Okay.
So the thing that I am proposing that I wish that every legislator would really take a hard look at is what I call the 110% rule.
Okay.
So I am saying that every new data center that is built should be required to either build themselves or fund the building of 110% of the capacity they need as new electric generation capacity on the grid.
Okay.
So if I'm let's use that can sound like that's a whole lot of numbers.
Help flesh that out. What that means.
Okay. So I want to come and build a 100 megawatt data center. Okay. That's a fairly small one, by the way. That uses the same amount of power per year as 68,000 homes, and it draws it constantly. Okay. Wow. So they should be required to either build or fund 110 megawatts. That's 110% of their usage, right? Yeah. So 110 megawatt new generation would make sure that what they are using is absorbed, like there's new generation to cover that plus 10%. What that would do is have a deflationary impact on energy prices. So all of our electricity bills would actually go down instead of up, because not only are they covering themselves, they're providing 10% of that for homes or businesses or whatever.
And I think if you think about that, I mean, these companies have the funding and the ability to pay that. It's not like they're struggling for cash. They've got the ability to make it happen. what's the kickback or what's the push against to not want to do that?
Well, I've not heard anybody else ever propose an idea like this before. Okay. So there will be pushback if anybody starts thinking about it because they're not going to want to pay for it. So one of the ironic things is everybody needs to know this. You haven't figured it out by now. The whole value proposition for artificial intelligence is that it's going to come and replace your job. That's the whole value proposition. AI companies are losing tens of billions of dollars every year, and that's with people like me paying for a subscription every month. Mm-hmm. They use so much power, and there's so much investment going into these data centers that literally they're losing tens of billions of dollars. The only way that they're ever going to make this investment back up, the whole gamble, is that AI will get smart enough that it can do everything a human can do and better. And within a couple of years.
I mean, I find it fascinating that it's beneficial. I have used AI for certain things, but I mean, I see the writing on the wall. I know that it's going to replace jobs. Mm-hmm. My fear is that it's like, what do we do for work? How do we make that money? How do we pay our bills? If AI is doing my job or doing your job, mm-hmm. I mean, I heard a guy at one of the World Economic Forums talking about AI, and anything that has to do with words, it's over with. Like, we're done. Like, when it comes to communicating, you're not going to need news anchors anymore. You're not going to need anyone to be in front of a camera to do what we're doing, because AI is going to be able to do it seamlessly, where you and I have AI doesn't do that. And
what's really weird is sometimes AI does, and so it sounds more human. AI voice models will actually now do pause fillers, so they sound more human.
That's weird.
So okay, let's talk about that. We'll come back to the 110% rule. This is worth talking about because people need to be aware.
Yeah.
So that is the plan, and it's not just what it has to do with words. Like, they are building robotics, and those robotics are meant to do human work as well. So we're talking about, like, humanoid robots and other specialized robots in the field doing things that all of us have done in the past.
Here's the thing that I'm riddled with ADD, and that's probably another reason they were like, "Hey, AI would be better because you're not going to have somebody that's riddled with ADD." I just find it fascinating. I mean, we make movies mm-hmm. about how this is going to go sideways and bad for us. Mm-hmm. I, Robot, with Will Smith. I think of all these different films that we've made, yeah. And how do we put? I mean, this is maybe not the question to ask you, but how do you put safeguards in so that doesn't happen? But that's right.
Well, so in any sane society, they would be. The problem is right now, what you're hearing out of these people is a whole bunch of excuses for why they are not worried about ethics and they are not worried about safety, because they will say, well, if we don't do it, then somebody else will.
Sure.
Right? And then if you really press the people in charge of these companies on it, they'll say, well, if we don't, then China will. And they are building things that they are really worried are going to cause not just social unrest, but like the death of lots of people.
Yep.
And they're saying this out loud, and they are saying, but we don't have a choice because it's doable. We have to do it, or somebody else will. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's inexcusable. That is a lack of imagination. It's a lack of leadership, and It is what people with this, the government's job is to actually step in and do something about this kind of thing. Mm. In reality, it's kind of like nukes, right? Like, we built those, and then we're like, well, now that the technology exists, we got to use it. And then we used it, and we went, oh no, what have we done?
This is bad.
Yeah, and then other countries got it, and then the U.S. and Russia started like building enough to melt the world multiple times over, because, well, if we don't have it, then they're going to get it. And at any point, people could have stopped and said, hey, we'll actually stop if you'll stop. And we did that. We had the non-proliferation treaties, and it worked. We actually started reducing our stockpiles. There's a lot of money in this, and there's a bit of a thrill from people who have very low ethics. That I think one of the most troubling phrases or quotes that I've heard in a long time is that, and forgive me for forgetting who said it, but the good stuff sticks. It is, we are gods in all but the wisdom. Mm. So, we have this godlike technology, right. an ability to create things.
Well, it gives us that perception that we are.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that we're actually like gods, sure. But what I mean is, like, our impact is way bigger than what I can do.
Right. And if you think about it from a theological standpoint, I know I said it wasn't going to be a theological podcast, but that was the temptation from Satan himself. He's like, hey, God's holding out on you. Mm-hmm. You could be your own God.
Yeah. Oh, it's Babel. It's Tower of Babel.
It's a whole thing, man.
Right.
And it's the recycled garbage from Satan from the beginning. He's not created anything new, done anything new. He just takes what he's already done, and we're gullible enough to believe it.
Right. Yeah. The problem is the human condition doesn't change.
Right.
But our capacity for destruction does.
Dad used to say, man is no more sinful today than they were 5,000 years ago. We just have more to be sinful with.
Yes. So, that's a great way of saying it.
So that was Dad.
Yeah. So there's your existential dread for the day. It is troubling.
So back to the 110%.
Well,
Sorry.
there's also things to be potentially excited about. It just depends on how some of this stuff is rolled out and the wisdom that is
it's a tool.
put into it.
I think it's a tool that if you use it right, I mean, just like the internet is a tool. Computers are tools. The things that we own are tools, and they need to be managed well. And if we're not managing them properly, they can be abused. And so we need to be careful.
So when you say, why hasn't anybody pushed back? This is a new idea. I think those companies will push back, and I think the answer needs to be, too bad, we're doing this anyway. And the reason is, so let's say let's just say a half of the job destruction that they're anticipating actually comes to pass. Okay, that will have a massive effect on the economy. We ain't seen nothing yet in wealth inequality as we will see in that world. So what then they will say is, well, the money thing's easy to figure out. It's they call it UBI, or universal basic income.
Yeah.
Okay,
Gross.
so let's assume that let's just say for the sake of the argument, it's not a terrible idea. It depends on what it is, right? It depends on what the level is and what you can afford with that. So let's just say it actually is enough that people don't have to work if they don't want to.
A lot of those things they're pretty on paper. You look at things like socialism. Socialism is pretty on paper, and then you back to the human condition. Sinful man gets involved. There's always abuse. Every history has shown us every time we have a socialistic world or a socialistic country, it always implodes into full-blown dictatorship.
Yeah, well, that's true about democracy too. If you look, I mean, you go back to the Greeks, you go back to the Romans, you have democracy, and then democracy also devolves into dictatorship. When enough corruption builds into any system, there will always be those who take advantage of the system and then end up trying to win the whole system and be in charge. I would say, because I've thought a lot about UBI, I would push back on what you just said. I think we're going to hear a lot more of from conservatives, which is this sounds like welfare. I would say instead, how many unhappy retirees do you know that have enough money to do what they want to do? Most of them that I know are actually very happy not having to go to work anymore. Now, they find other things to do with their time, right? They find ways to serve, and they have friends they do stuff with, and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that they aren't going to work every single day to get their money doesn't make them any less happy. And in fact, the way that investments work, if you invest enough to be able to retire, you end up often dying with more money than you had. So they're actually earning money while they do that, and it doesn't make them feel like less of a person because they didn't have to go to a job to get that anymore. Right? So I would suggest a reframing as you think, this is how I've reframed it. You will come to your own conclusions, but I wouldn't compare it to socialism, because if there is no longer a job for you to do that is the traditional type of work, that's better than starving to death. It's better than having a permanent underclass.
Well, I think that's the trajectory. Is that if we follow this line of thinking, there will be starvation because there will be no work. If I work in the IT technology field, I see it. I see the writing on the wall. I know what's coming. I'm not naive to think, this wouldn't happen to us.
Right.
It's coming.
Right.
We better figure out how to innovate, or we will die.
But if you could replace your standard of living without having to go to your job every day, you might still choose to go and do that work. My guess is you would probably invest more heavily in your ministry.
Probably.
Because that's...
Not probably, yes.
And you would not for a second regret that. Right?
No.
And so again, that's not all bad. Part of what I'm trying to say is not all doom and gloom if we manage this well. My thing about UBI is I have yet to meet a corporation that chooses and voluntarily asks to be taxed more so that people can have more benefits. That's the crazy thing about UBI, is that the tech leaders are saying, well, this is how we're going to solve this. And I'm like, well, then you're going to have to pay for it. But when I look on paper, none of them want to pay for any more than they currently are.
Yeah, nobody wants to pay
So
more.
if they're going to push back on the 110% rule, you can be absolutely certain they're going to push back on UBI once all the jobs are gone.
Yep.
So we either figure out a way for people, not corporations, but people to benefit from the AI revolution now, or it will likely be too late or much harder. That revolution will come through civil unrest and violence. That's my prediction. So I would suggest we do good policy right now and make sure that we benefit.
While we have the time to do it, and we have a little bit of rope to get ourselves back from the edge.
Yes.
I think if people would listen to what you're suggesting, I think that would genuinely fix our problems.
Yes.
Hello, my friends. Wanted to come to you really quick and talk about one of our amazing sponsors, Revo Financial. Your money absolutely matters. Your future matters. Your family's future matters. Do you have a plan to take care of your family? Do you have a plan for your money? Well, I'm going to tell you, Revo Financial is the group you need to talk to. Revo Financial is a family-trusted, faith-driven financial advisor group that is passionate about building and managing wealth for clients who value investments that align with their principles and their core values. Give them a call at 918-336-7877. 918-336-7877 or go to revofinancial.com. Hey, my friends, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Skip the stress and enjoy a great meal at Copan Restaurant and Truckstop. Whether you're celebrating with your sweetheart, your family, or just treating yourself, you'll find good food, friendly service, and a small town hospitality that can't be beat. This Valentine's Day, love is on the menu at Copan Restaurant and Truckstop. Give us a call at 918-532-4666. That's Copan Restaurant and Truckstop. Hey everybody, are you looking for a workout that actually fits your schedule? Well, check out HOTWORX Bartlesville. It's open 24/7 with virtually instructed workouts and infrared saunas. Oh my goodness, I am obsessed with this. Burn calories, build strength, and detox, all in just 15 to 45 minutes. Listen, there's no crowds, no excuses, just results. Join HOTWORX Bartlesville today and feel the difference. Give them a call today and talk to their friendly staff at 918-213-0610 or stop by and check it out for yourself at 2321 Southeast Adams Boulevard right here in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. HOTWORX Bartlesville. Every organization faces threats, digital, strategic, human, but your team doesn't have to face it alone. At the Nine Minds Group, we blend elite cybersecurity expertise with practical business strategy to protect what matters most: your data, your people, and your reputation. We partner with you to assess risk, strengthen defenses, and build a secure foundation for growth, because your smart security isn't just technology, it's peace of mind.
Working with Nine Minds, they bring high quality technical resources to bear. We're the team that you want to bring in if your technology is holding your business back instead of accelerating the growth that you want to see from your business.
You will get top-notch professional service from us. You will get personalized service from us.
We're going to work to understand your business. Reach out and schedule your consultation, and let's get started.
Visit the9minds.com. That's THENINEMINDS.com. The9minds.com.
So let me explain how the 110% rule makes sure that everybody prospers, okay? Because I actually think that this one rule could be the biggest economic boom that a state like Oklahoma has seen since the oil boom. In fact, it will probably be, if it were to roll out the way I'm about to describe, it will be the biggest economic boom that Americans have seen in generations, okay? That's a huge claim, so let me back it up.
Yep.
Okay, one other thing you need to understand, most people do not because we weren't taught this in school. Most of us think that energy is a part of the economy. Energy is the economy.
Okay.
So, and it's not metaphorical, like everything that makes life livable and enjoyable is the result of a fire burning somewhere, starting with the sun and working its way down and then out. Every calorie that you consume, everything that you're wearing, everything in this room, everything that you drive, everything is the result of a fire burning somewhere to either create something or change it so that it's more usable, okay?
Yes.
So it's all energy. So what we have seen through history is that energy consumption and gross domestic product rise basically perfectly in step with each other. So when energy becomes cheaper and more of it can be consumed, the economy booms.
Yes.
When energy becomes more expensive and we can consume less of it, the economy shrinks. Okay? So if you want to see a growing, flourishing economy where people have more than enough to be able to eat what they want and live how they want, all those kind of things, The best way to get there is actually to produce more energy that can then be consumed in the pursuit of all of these activities. Okay, so money equals energy. You just never thought of it that way. Yeah. That is literally what it is, and it's the marginal cost of energy that determines how much you can afford. So if you can afford more energy, right? So let's say we talked about $2,000 for the average household. If energy price doubles to $4,000 and you get a $4,000 raise, you haven't gotten any wealthier.
Right.
Right? If energy decreases to $1,000, you just got a $1,000 raise, even though you've made zero more money.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now you have all the necessary context to explain why the 110% rule is so powerful. The 110% rule means that you have to generate, well, again, 10% more. So that 100 megawatt data center has to produce 110 megawatts. That means that the marginal price of energy will go down for the communities around it where the new power generation exists.
Right.
The companies want to come to a place like Oklahoma because we have cheap energy. So they want to be able to tap into our cheap energy. We just don't want that energy to get more expensive, right? And they can build the data center faster than we can build the new generation. That is, in reality, new power capacity takes a really long time to come online. We are already probably a decade behind where we need to be. And by the time we try to play catch up to this, we'll never catch up. So you've got people on the state level who are currently saying behind closed doors, like, we're a decade behind, we're in real trouble here, okay? Mm-hmm. Oklahoma will say, hey, well, it sounds like we need more electricity. That's great, we're an oil and gas state. Aren't we gonna make more money? And the problem is that it's not about getting the energy out of the ground, it's getting it from there to where it needs to be used, right? Yes. Electricity. And the demand is so great right now that new natural gas turbines, that's one of the cheapest forms of energy. New natural gas turbines have a 7-year waiting list in some places. It takes at least a decade to construct a nuclear facility. That's assuming you can get it regulated and you can get it allowed. Yep. Deep geothermal, one of the most exciting energy generation forms in the pipeline, is close, but it's not ready to be done at scale yet. Wind and solar have this weird thing in Oklahoma. The cheapest form of energy to roll out and to use is solar. I know you've heard otherwise. Those people are wrong. It is, most people's model of solar is a decade ago. Mm-hmm. So what I think would happen is if you required these companies to provide 110% of the energy that they're going to use, they need to do it as fast as possible. Okay? Because it's got to come online quickly, just like them. New solar can be rolled out at scale within 2 years or less. Wow. And the technology is so efficient and so cheap now that you can buy a pallet of them for less than a couple $1,000. Wow. So what would happen is if you said put up the funding to do this, if they created let's say that these companies create a grant tomorrow, say it's going to cost us $300 million to create the power generation that we need, put $310 million up or whatever to do this, and anybody who's going to build power at scale can do so. Every single one of us could go apply to put that solar on our rooftop. Some people would take their land and they would put solar panels out on it, and they could do it at scale. Right. But for each of us, for really just a couple tens of thousands of dollars, we could have enough solar and storage in our house that we could power our own selves all the time, which would bring our cost of energy basically to free. Now, energy is money, right? So if all of a sudden my household is no longer paying $2,000 a year for that energy because the data center, provided the money for me to put those panels up, that means I'm $2,000 richer, you're $2,000 richer. That means now the grid doesn't just have the same amount of energy we had, we also have 10% more, which means somebody who wants to open up a manufacturing plant or whatever kind of business they want, they can do so more cheaply as well. The hard numbers look like this. For a 100 megawatt data center, it's about 68,000 homes worth of power. If you do the extra 10%, that's like 74,000 homes that would be covered with solar, for instance. Right. Okay? That means that community that did that, okay, that installed all of that, would have $117 million of new economic capacity, not once, annually. Because all of those homes now are no longer paying for electricity.
Right. So the money is going to be there if we follow through and did this. The money's going to be. It's not that they're losing the capital, the cash.
Right.
It's still there.
Yeah, and it
We're
is
just not having to pay for it ourselves.
It's an ongoing
out of our
resource.
pocket.
And the great thing is with solar is when it talks about renewable, this is important. With renewable energy, is that green tech or whatever? It's just economics. That's all that matters is economics. It's just economics and physics. You get those two things right, and everything else works. Okay.
Right.
So when our grandparents knew this, my grandma was like 4 years old when the Dust Bowl hit. Mm-hmm. They had to immigrate out of Oklahoma, right? They lived through the Great Depression, like they still remember those kind of things.
Sure.
And our grandparents who went through that kind of stuff knew it is better to pay a little bit more up front for something that will last a long time than to keep buying something over and over and over again, right? So when we talk about something like solar panels or anything else that is renewable, what we're saying is you can keep using it. Right now, I got to pay $2,000 a year every single year for my electricity, right? And that number will just skyrocket.
Yeah.
The companies pay one time. We put up solar panels on our houses. Now I am individually energy independent. And I get $2,000 a year back in my pocket every single year.
So you're saying I should have had that guy install some solar panels on my house?
Well, what I'm saying is if that guy had said, I'll give them to you for free, you'd have said, absolutely do it right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that we should be requiring the companies to do this because there's almost not a single one of us who would say, like, I want to just keep paying $2,000 a year.
Right. No, I don't.
And one other thing about these solar panels, because there will be somebody in your comments who are like, this, whatever. They'll shake their fist at the heavens and complain about something.
Oh, yeah.
It is one of the things that most people don't know because their mental model of all this is a decade or two old, is that these solar panels now have hit this level of efficiency that is almost at its theoretical maximum. Like they are continuing to have these material science breakthroughs, so they're super efficient. And they don't just last 20 or 30 years. That's what people think. In reality, they last 20 or 30 years before they start to lose any efficiency. So in reality, like for the next 30 years, let's just say if we built one of these in Bartlesville, okay? 70,000 homes now suddenly have solar, making themselves energy independent.
Yep.
Okay, that's more than Bartlesville. That's actually more than Washington County. So that's going to be like every home and every business can now produce their own energy. Okay,
sure.
We're now saving and now have new economic stimulus. There we go. Economic stimulus of $117 million a year in our community. That's enormous. That's the same as like I did the numbers, but it's been a while now. I want to say it's like let's say it's between 120 and 150 six-figure jobs coming to Bartlesville.
Good grief.
I mean, so the economic impact of this is huge. And with as many of them as they're building, what would really happen is as soon as people wanted to, if they wanted to, every home in Oklahoma would be energy independent. And there would still be like solar farms or wind farms and natural gas turbines and maybe nuclear, but it'll be producing so much so fast that all of a sudden we're going to be going, why is our economy booming? And the reason is because we may have just gotten tens of billions of dollars of new economic stimulus every single year. This is without a single tax credit, so without a single incentive. It's like all the stuff that people have complained about green energy in the past goes away just by saying we refuse to pay extra in energy to subsidize your business that's going to put us out of a job.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that I think about is we're just running fast towards these things and getting these things implemented very quickly, and I'm concerned that people are going to lose their jobs. Like that's my biggest concern is people in the tech world, people in I mean they've even got AI robots out now picking crops and doing all these different things. I mean you don't need labor. People, that's the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Well, nobody wants to do it. So now we're going to have a robot, and now nobody's got this job.
Right.
I mean,
so let's assume, again. So it's easy to go down the doom scrolling route. Sure. And I've had my existential crises along the way. But let's reframe for a second, okay? Because if I already said, if you could have your current standard of living,
yes,
without having to go to work every day.
I think everyone would say if there was a way for me to maintain the cash flow that I have coming in, and I could, I always ask people if money was no object, what would you be doing? I'd be like, I travel more, or I do this, or I focus on this hobby. I make this.
So I just told you that's $24,000 a year in your pocket. That's not what you're making at your job. But like, that's just from, again, energy is the economy.
Sure.
So that's just that. And then, well, every 10 data centers, essentially, you are creating a whole other data center's worth of new electric capacity, which means everybody who wants to start a business is going to go, Oklahoma is the cheapest place to start a business because the electricity is basically free. Yeah. They come and they set up whatever, they start manufacturing shirts.
Sure.
Well, the cost of those shirts no longer contains the cost of electricity.
Right.
And the robots are, picking the cotton. And so the cost of that labor, by the time, there is an argument that AI has this deflationary impact where things get really cheap. And the question is, where does the money come from? Yep. The only real question is, where does the energy come from? Because energy is the economy. So if the energy is cheap enough, then the cost of everything else falls to almost zero. Now, that's a huge stretch goal, you understand, right? We don't get there overnight.
Right. No.
But you do start to take those steps by saying, let's make sure that we are impacting people in a positive way. One of the pushbacks that I get asked every time, I'm sure your audience has thought about it, you probably have too, is, well, if Bartlesville does that, won't they just go to Washington County? Yes, which is why it needs to be statewide. But if Oklahoma does it, won't they just build these things in Texas or Kansas or Arkansas or whatever? And my answer to that is, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if they do, that doesn't bother me.
Sure, got it.
Like, if I have to choose between us paying $4,000 a year, like, so double the amount of electricity cost, or them building in Texas, why would I want them to build here? Yeah. They don't provide jobs long term. Your son said, 700 electricians to build a data center. When it's built, they basically go away. Yep. They may have a couple dozen people who work, kind of keeping it up or whatever. But it's not like we're incentivizing a big employer that's now going to employ 1,000 people. Sure. It's the opposite. Yeah. We're bringing something here that will then lead to people getting laid off at the same time their energy prices go up. So we're literally paying for it twice. So I think Oklahoma has the chance to be an energy leader again by saying the 110% rule is the minimum threshold for whether or not you can build in Oklahoma. If you're not willing to do that here, then go somewhere else. And the minute we do that, a whole bunch of other states will follow our lead because they're going to go, yeah, our people should actually benefit from this, right? Is a business going to open up in Texas when their electricity is 2 times more expensive than it is in Oklahoma? No.
Probably not.
Not most of the time.
Well, you look at there's some company in Oklahoma City that's fixing to leave and go to Texas, and everybody's if you go look at the doom scrolling comments, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they're leaving. They're going to Texas. What are we doing, Oklahoma?" And there's a way to fix this.
Yeah, when the cost of electricity drops.
So how do we described the problem, we described how to fix it. How do we get our leaders, because our elected officials are the ones that can legislate this, can bring this about. What do we do, the guy that's just looking at their phone, watching this podcast or listening to it on their walk, how can the person that has no influence, no power, how can they help make this a reality?
Yeah. So I think the best things for us to be doing, I want you to know that I'm talking to anybody who's elected or trying to get elected that I can. Yep. The second thing that I would suggest is, so I've made by the time this comes out, I will have made a video explaining this in a very tight format, not so many rabbit trails. We'll have explained it in a really concise format that can be watched and digested in about 5 minutes. That can be shared with friends, with family members, and with elected officials. You can send it directly to your state representatives, your national representatives, say, this is what I want us to do. I'm going to vote for the person. We're in primary season right now in Oklahoma. Sure. Yep. I'm going to vote for the candidates who say they will enact this.
Once you have that video, because this will drop after you drop your video, and this
it'll be on my YouTube. It'll also be on my Facebook. So Aaron for Ward 4 is my Facebook. It'll be on a YouTube channel.
So I think if you'll as well, I mean, obviously you're going to hear this on the podcast, but if you'll just drop that to me as well, I'll put it at the end of the podcast so they can watch it as well.
Sure, I absolutely will do that. I think for all the things that are potentially scary about AI, again, there's a lot of potential upside.
Like I said, I use it for certain things to help make things clearer and create things that, like I said, the thumbnail for this particular podcast on YouTube will be created by AI.
Right. But we should not be waiting. One of the big complaints about legislation right now is that whether it's in the national and the state level, it just can't ever keep up. They always move slower than the technologies or the companies or whatever. That's a choice.
Sure.
It just is. Yeah. Like I've talked to a lot of representatives who frankly don't understand the tech. That's really troubling.
I think there's a lot of folks that don't understand the tech stuff.
I'm a pastor, right? I understand this because I listen to a handful of podcasts that are very informative and explain things really well. Yeah. And this idea is new, is unique to me, but it's really just the extension of saying, how do we make sure that this benefits people? Full stop, right? Mm-hmm. If we say, how do we use people to make sure AI gets here? That's a problem. If we say, how do we use AI to make sure that people get the benefit? We're going to have an amazing future. Mm-hmm. That's Immanuel Kant. It's also Jesus. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He said it best and first.
Sure.
And so when you start with that as your perspective, like as a city councilman, as a human being, as a minister, a neighbor, whatever, how do I make sure that what we're doing benefits people? Then these ideas kind of just come naturally.
Sure.
Because I go, well, okay, this is coming. This could actually make things really cheap if we do it right. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And so we choose these roads by every time there's a fork in the road, we just say, I'm picking people first. What if the corporation, don't care. How does it benefit the people?
Yes.
And when you do that, I think we can get somewhere really cool.
I agree. I think that is, if we just think that way and stop overanalyzing and say, okay, what's the best way to help my neighbor next to me and help my family and help the people that I know personally, you start living your life like that in such a way that I want to help people have a better life, because if they have a better life, Zig Ziglar said it, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want to.
I love that. I think it's true. Let me say one more thing, because you asked about how people can, how do we make this happen? How do we tell our legislators, whatever? One other thing that I will throw out there to internet land. What I have learned about having lots of these conversations is that there is a learning curve that it's easy for us to expect that people know more than they actually do, right? And there is a learning curve that, that you spend enough time on it, you learn stuff.
Yes.
So I will say a lot of legislators are doing the best they can to represent their districts and know what their people need and all that kind of stuff. And so ideas are just not everybody's strength. So if you are a legislator out there at any level, if you're a policy person, a governor, a senator, a councilman, a representative, anything, a CEO of one of these companies. I've heard AI leaders who are saying, we got to figure out how to give back to the community. We just don't know how to do it. If this gets shared with you, you are welcome to call me and I will help. I have vision between here and how we get there, how we roll this out. Like, there are policy proposals that I can help you put together that are votable and that are so easy to communicate that people will see that and go, yeah, we should be doing that. I actually haven't given this to anybody yet, this idea that has not said, let me say it in the positive. Everybody I've given this to has said, this is a really good idea. Mm-hmm. We got to make it happen. So if you're someone who's in the position to make it happen, I am volunteering my time to you to help make it happen. Please. No matter where you live, no matter what state you're from or what country you're from, I will help you make this happen if this is something that you are interested in looking into.
Love it.
Yeah. Message the show, message me on social media, on my email or cell phone, which are all on the internet.
We'll have all that stuff tagged in the show notes, so you have all these contact information. But yeah, let's look for a way to make our country and our cities and our communities thrive rather than constantly... we have to change what we're focused on, because if we're always doom scrolling doesn't help.
Right.
Griping about things, complaining about things don't help. How can we and that's what the internet is famous for. It's just we want to we just griped about the Super Bowl halftime show. It wasn't patriotic enough. It's too patriotic, and this is bad. This that blah blah blah. Everybody's griping. Let's dial back griping and say, you've laid forward an idea that I think can actually get us to where we need to be as a state and ultimately as a nation. It will help us if we can get the right legislation laid forward to help these companies understand you're taking that much energy away from households. The people that are going to be consuming the AI that you're using, help them help you.
Right. It is totally possible. Back in the 30s, Harry Truman was a part of the electricity rollout, getting electricity to rural America. I have people in my church who were alive in western Oklahoma, grew up in a house when they were little children who did not have electricity. And they remember when electricity came to their town, or the first house they moved into that had electricity. That didn't happen because corporations said, oh, I can make more money if I run a cable over there. It happened because the government stepped in and said, every single American ought to have electricity and our economy will boom as a result. And they were right.
Yes.
This is a job that politicians have always done, or at least have done in the past. And we ought to be doing what Truman did and saying, this is the next energy revolution, and we're going to champion it, because if we don't, we will have people who are still alive, who remember when they didn't have electricity, who will no longer be able to afford electricity. And we need to make sure that never happens.
I agree, 100%. Well, brother, thanks for coming on the show. And
thank you for having me.
And sharing this idea. I think if we do this right, it could change the world.
I really, truly believe that could be the case.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thank you.